Thanks for joining us for the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And I'm really excited to get to hear your perspective about your first time at Dakar. But first, can you introduce yourself a little bit for the audience that doesn't know you?
Yeah, so I'm Hunter Miller. I'm from Greenville, Texas. 39 years old, just turned 39. It's hard to remember that, but been racing since I was 6 years old and grew up racing ATV motocross. Raced all the way from when I was young till about 2012 or so. My brother and I were both racing pro and factory riders for Can-Am at the time, and around 2012 we transitioned into side-by-sides and some 14-ish side-by-sides full-time, and it's what we've been doing ever since.
You guys have been there from the ground up, really.
Yeah, for sure. And things have changed a lot in the last, 12 years or so. Went from, everybody jokes about them being like golf carts, but that's literally kind of what they were. They're nice golf carts back to them, to what we're racing now that are full-blown race cars, that are competitive against, multi-million-dollar machines.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, it is kind of like from the outside perspective to look at what it was and then how quickly it evolved. Like as a racer, how did you kind of tackle that big leap from something that really didn't have that kind of power and performance, and now you're in something that can compete, be it as it may, like the trucks out there?
I've been there every step. We do a lot of the testing that goes into the development of the machines, and you've got big manufacturers that are pushing, and really what's driving it forward is the competition between each other. So Polaris is always trying to one up Can-Am, and then Can-Am one ups them, and it just is this stair step thing. And they're competing for market share along with all the other manufacturers as well, but they're competing for market share, and numbers are what sells, horsepower and suspension travel and all of this. So they're constantly trying to improve these things, and they're doing it very quickly. So, but for me, it's almost, I forget what we were driving back then. It's like we take the platform we have and we make it as good as we possibly can, and then it seems like the next version comes out and it's better than our race cars in stock form, and so we improve that as much as we can, and it's just kind of a smooth transition for us. But for the showroom floor buyers, I say, comparing a stock unit to a stock unit, I mean, it's a huge leap every time.
Yeah. Do you feel any pressure from the OEMs to like really put yourself out there and be on the podium as much as possible?
I mean, of course there's pressure. They want us to win, but at the same time, I don't think anybody wants to win more than we do. So a lot of the pressure probably comes from ourselves, to be honest with you. And winning and racing, that's just part of it. Like, a lot of it is the interaction with the public, and I try to really make it a point to help everybody as much as I possibly can, because we do have a lot of knowledge about these machines, more than most, I think. So when I see people having issues, I try to go out of my way to make sure they have a solution for it, and it's a big package that that you try to put together for them. It's more than just racing, but of course the racing is at the forefront of it, and winning is what we try to do.
Yeah, I mean, no one goes into the race hoping to get second. Yeah. And so what are some of the biggest events that you've done?
King of the Hammers for sure, and then obviously just got done with my first Dakar. I would say that's the biggest one I've ever done. That was a challenge like nothing I've ever faced before. Yeah, I mean, just traveling over there, and home was a challenge. But learning about that is a completely different form of racing. I mean, I kind of underestimated how hard it would be, Coming from over here, you think, we're kind of in our own little bubble in the U.S., and we think, oh man, we're some of the top guys over here, and we should go over there, and thinking you're going to mop up, and you're in for a rude awakening. Like, there are fast guys and girls all over the world, and it's again a different form of racing that you have to understand in order to go fast out there. There's so much more to it than driving. So I learned a lot this year, that's for sure, that I can take with me for next year.
I mean, a lot of you guys, you thrive off of these new challenges and all these obstacles. Do you find that, did this excite you? Did it spark something? Are you excited to do more?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. Every day we were looking back at what we did and what happened on the day, and like, how can we improve that for tomorrow? I kind of was off to a rough start right off the bat. I had literally bad luck, just a rock getting in the wrong place and taking out the transmission. And so I had a long day, and that sets you back. Well, that was definitely something I learned. Like, when you have an issue on a day and you get set back in the pack, going into the next day, it's a different race than when you are starting out up front, just because of how much traffic you're dealing with and the dust. And you have to push through the dust, but at the same time, it's so easy to make a mistake and give yourself another bad day. And I did that one day, trying to push through the dust and get to the front and hit some camel grass and broke the car, So we were sitting there for about 3 hours until the T5 got there with parts to fix it and try to finish the day. So it, yeah.
People have no idea, but well, before we dive more into Dakar, I want to talk a little bit more about like what are some of your greatest achievements in racing so far?
Oh man. So I would say, I guess starting with side by sides, we raced locally for a long time because side by side racing on a national level was not that big. Can-Am approached us saying, do you want to give side by sides a try, because that's where the support's going. Quads were on the downslide and side by sides were going up at a 90-degree angle. And back then, honestly, 100% honestly, I was not that interested in them because they were not that cool back then. They were slow. They were slow. They broke a lot, but like, we'll give it a shot. What's the worst can happen? But we didn't really have anywhere to race them. So a local series that we were racing was a cross country series. And we said, hey, would you be interested in adding a side by side class? Well, the owner, he was a dirt track racer back in his prime, and he was all about it, and it absolutely exploded. Like we went from having 8-10 of them at the first race. By the end of the year, there's 30, and then other local series got going. And at one point, like local races in Texas by us would have 200 plus cars. Wow. I mean, it was nuts, And 2016, we went on to the GNCC series, and Cody ended up winning the XC1 Pro Championship his first year and the second year in 2017, and then I won it in 18, which was super cool. Then we moved on to the Work Series, and 2019 we actually tied for first. It was weird, but we tied for first in the series, but Cody ended up officially getting it because he had one more win on the season than me. But typical, we're racing so close, and we tied in points, so it's still kind of a laughing thing. I always say I'm co-champion, but he actually won. Then 2020 was my first year racing King of the Hammers, and I actually won it my first shot. So I would say that's probably the highlight of my career, just because nobody expected us to do good, including myself. Like we got here and never rock raced or barely even desert raced in my entire life, and didn't know anything about it, didn't know what we were doing here. We just had great support from Can-Am and other teammates that had done it, and they were giving us bits of advice. And then I luckily had a co-driver with Chad Hughes that was extremely experienced with it, and so that made it, honestly, that's what won me the race. Yeah, Chad is one of the main reasons we won, for sure. But that was a huge accomplishment, for sure. Even though it was 5 years ago, I still talk about it because it was such a big deal to me at the time. And then
it resonates, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I've had some podiums since here. I've still been chasing the win, but then moving on, that year, Cody and I actually qualified 1-2, and Cody had some issues right off the bat of the race, and he ended up finishing like 9th or 13th or something in the UTV race. Well, I flew home, and the next morning, Cody's eating breakfast, and I think it was he was at Casey Curry's pit, and they were jokingly like, well, why don't you just stay and race 4,400? It was a joke, but he kind of took it serious and went and saw Dave in Ultra 4, and they allowed him to race, and all of a sudden, like, he did really well. I want to say he got 13th, and I'd have to look back, but it was something like that. And they had a long, hard day, But all of a sudden, we're like, oh, man, this is another level, And so the next year, we started doing both classes, and you've been slowly working our way up every year. The best I think we've done was I got a 7th year before last, and then last year Kyle finished physically first, and probably would have been on the podium, except he accidentally missed one obstacle in a rock trail and got a little penalty, but so he went back to 8th, so I'm still better than him, obviously. No, but when he came through the finish first physically, and his car's all mangled and stuff, but I mean, it was such a boost in enthusiasm for it and everything, So now, like, winning 4,400 is our big goal,
Yeah, very big.
Yeah, for sure. And we put a lot of effort into it, and it's going to happen. I don't know if it'll be this year, but we're not going to stop trying until we do,
Yeah, we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, so Aside from Dakar, obviously you said that was one of the biggest events that you've done. Would you say KOH is the biggest up until that point?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. KOH is a huge event. I
Yeah.
mean, it's I would say the biggest in North America for sure. I would say it's right up there with the Baja 1000.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
KOH is like nothing else, and it's kind of funny actually because Andrew and I were talking at Dakar like kind of what makes rally racing so fun, and I think a lot of it is like the community pits at the
Yes.
bivouac and everybody at the end of the day everybody's still together and all that. And KOH is the only event in North America that's like that, where
Yeah.
everybody's together every day. We're here for 2 weeks and it's just a big community, and that's as close to what it's like rally racing as you're going to get over here. Most of
Yeah.
them, you show up, you pit, you race, you go home.
Yeah, and there's a lot of barriers. Just being, media or spectator, there's all these different layers before we get to reach the racers. And I find that, Dakar, obviously, we're crammed into a small space. And even here, there's just a little bit more of a bridge, and people get to see your real people and like get to, also just inspire them. Like, if this guy from Texas can, race 4400s, then maybe that's, that level I can get to.
Yeah. Well, for sure. Just going to be a spectator is impossible for 99% of the world. You
Right.
know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
not only the price, but where it is and everything else, and then the logistics of moving thousands and thousands of miles
Mhm.
around, every day is not something many can do. That's for
Yeah, it's
sure.
big.
I still have no idea how the teams even do it.
No, I mean, luckily that's not my wheelhouse, so I'm just never going to figure that out. But really, every year, I'm sure for your team too, it's a monumental achievement just to get everyone organized, get all the cars there, coordinate. I mean, luckily you guys work with South Racing, so that gave not necessarily a leg up, but at least you had a foundation to work with.
South knows what they're doing, that's for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be 100% impossible for me to wake up and just even with all the money in the world just to say, "Oh, I think I'm going to go race Dakar this year," and put together all of that. It
Yeah.
would just be so mentally overwhelming. I don't know that I could do it, and honestly I don't know how Scott does it. Like, I know what it takes just to organize what we have going on at KOH, and we're not moving at all,
Yeah.
and he has a great team around him as well. But to wrap your head around what it takes to make that happen, just to feed everybody over there, is insane.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
And you guys
insane.
have nice catering.
We did. It was.
They do it right.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever get Cody out to Dakar?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, and I said that a bunch of times. Like, I wish Cody was here, experiencing this too, because you can't describe what it's like, and do it any sort of justice. But it's just an expense thing. That's all it is. I mean, just for me to go do it was, a lot of money, and then with two of us, double that up, which is the story of our entire lives.
Yeah.
KOH is twice as expensive for us as it is anybody else, just because, instead of building, 3 cars for me, we're building 6 cars for both
Yeah.
of us, and instead of having, this many mechanics for me, we've got to have twice that many, and it's twice the people to feed and everything
Yeah.
else. I mean, it's a lot. So Dakar's the same thing. Even though everything's turnkey over there, it's still a massive price tag, and getting sponsor money for one person is very difficult. But then it's not like, we share expenses at Dakar like we do some over here, with travel and all of that. It's literally twice the price. So it is.
Yeah.
It is. But hopefully one day. I mean, I see a lot of the guys that are racing Dakar, and they're in their 60s. I mean, you can do it
Yeah, you have
for a long time.
wider range, I think.
Now, after doing it, I don't know how they're still doing it,
I know.
but
Those guys are masochists.
yeah.
Those guys are masochists. I mean, all of you guys are masochists. I think anyone who goes to Dakar has got a little screw loose, but I would say the same for KOH as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, speaking on Cody, what's it like to be able to race with your brother and just spend an entire career together? How does it help? How does it hinder?
I would say it's a huge advantage, honestly. I don't know that it does hinder us. Like, we're looked at as the same team. So, like, I had a great day going, and then it ended abruptly yesterday right at the end. Well, Cody went on and won, and with him winning, it's almost as good as me winning, for the team and everything else. I mean, so we kind of double up our chances of doing well. It's like, um It's funny, Kyle always says it because we've been racing against him for so long. He's like, man, I can consistently beat one or the other, but it's hard to beat both, you know? So, and nobody really pays attention to the difference. They
Yeah.
just see Miller.
They're
So
like Miller. Great.
yeah,
Yeah. I
exactly.
mean, if your sponsors don't care, they see Miller and they
Yeah.
have the.
Yeah. So, I mean, and not only that, we have, if we're both driving at the same time, we're getting twice the amount of testing done and we have twice the amount of feedback, like all of these things. It's a massive advantage. And, hindrance, I wouldn't say, other than the cost, I don't think there is really one. And the amount of work is doubled up, preparing things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it far outweighs any disadvantage we
Yeah.
have. Of course, we get into our little bickerings, but that's normal.
You're on a team and you're also related, so.
Yeah, we never leave each other's side. So we're involved in everything. So I mean, yeah, I would say it's just all pluses.
Great. Yeah. I mean, from the outside, it looks like you guys are a great team and everything works smoothly. And for Can-Am, I imagine it's a huge advantage, as you said, just for testing, if nothing else. So that's great. It would be nice to see him go to Dakar for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and again, hopefully it happens one day. That's definitely the goal. And that's what we were working towards at first. But again, just the cost of it alone is astronomical. So maybe if I can go over there and do good, we can
Yeah, you can
we
bring him
bring a
along.
little extra.
Yeah.
But
Leverage.
yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
How'd you first learn about Dakar?
I never paid. I mean, of course, I knew about it. Like, it's hard to miss, but I didn't pay that much attention to it until maybe 2018 or so. My buddy Phil Henderson was working at Can-Am at the time, and
Yeah.
and he started going over there, and we just BS about it a little bit, and then of course in 2020 I paid attention when Casey won.
Yeah.
And I've been like all about it since then, and every time Phil's over there, like I'm constantly texting him, and keeping up with it every day and all that and trying to learn a bunch. And uh, I've been trying to get it all together for like honestly the last 3 years.
Wow.
But again, like we talked about, that barrier is so big that it's almost like a full-time job trying to put together the package to get it done, and we were super close a couple times and then, it didn't work out. But this year the opportunity presented itself and it was a lot to put together in a short amount of time. But,
Yeah.
with Can-Am and Maxxis and Elkis Suspension and UTV Race Shop and some other sponsors, like we were able to get it done, and Phil is a big part of that as well, and helping me to organize everything and put a proposal together for sponsors. So
Big.
yeah, it really was. It really was. I mean, of course I had to come out of pocket myself some as well, but not compared to what the overall cost was. It was pennies on the dollar, but for I'm just a normal guy, so it's still a lot of money for me, but worth it for sure.
That's good. I mean, that's good. I mean, it's funny because I had this discussion with another journalist the other day about just how much, not just, the effort that you put in as a racer, but on the course, but the effort you put behind the scenes, the logistics, the personal investments, the financial investments. And then once you're on course, it's like this whole mental exhaustion, like drained to the bottom under, like, yes, I feel like you think it's worth it, but what does it feel like at the end when you've accomplished? Because you were able to get to the finish line, you were able to get that finisher medal. Was there like a moment of euphoria? Was there a moment that you realized you accomplished something?
Yeah, it's more like the relief that you're doing all this effort and it's done. You know what I mean? Like, even no matter what the result, even when we DNF something, it's like it's over. It doesn't compare to winning and it being done, that's for sure. But I wouldn't say it's the relief of the feeling of accomplishment as much as it is the relief of the pressure's off. You know what I mean? That's just me personally. When we're leaving the lake bed after KOH, or I'm getting on the plane leaving Dakar, it's just like, no matter how it turned out, I know I did everything possible to get whatever result I got, whether it's a DNF or a win. I know I put everything out to do it, and was, gave it 100%. I never give anything less, but it's just the feeling of euphoria that it's done, and okay, let's start thinking about what's next and move on. But there's a very temporary moment of relief that, okay, I did all I can do and it's over, and I can relax. But for a very short amount of time after Dakar, it was about the length of the plane ride home, and then we were packing to drive straight out here. I was home for 3 or 4 days, and then we were here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's the first thing you did when you got home, but I imagine maybe catch on, catch up on sleep, maybe this much, and then.
No, there was none of that, unfortunately. The sleep I got was on the plane, and I got home. Well, actually, I got super lucky because I got to Paris finally, and I was supposed to have like a 8 or 10 hour layover there, but they actually, and then I was going to Atlanta and then back to Dallas. Well, they happened to have a direct flight that was right then straight to Dallas. So I ended up getting home in the afternoon and waited for my bags for 3 hours. But that's another story.
That's still.
Yeah, but at least they were there.
Yeah.
So got those, got in bed at kind of a normal time, and then I was up at 6, back in the shop getting things loaded and finished and ready to come out here. So when I get home, I plan to take a little vacation. I've barely seen my wife in the last month and a half. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, what do you do to unwind?
nothing. That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to do nothing. I mean, I have my hobbies. I like mountain biking and karting and a few other things that I haven't had time to do at all in probably the last year, it seems like.
Wow.
But I the next event for us that's on the schedule is Vegas to Reno, and we've got a break. So we're going to get all the race cars sorted, because every time you leave here, everything is destroyed, it seems like. So we're going to be moving some of those out, starting new builds and all that, and getting things ready. So we've got a lot of time in the shop, but we also have a lot of other work in the shop as well we have to get done. So but at least I'll be in my own bed at night and getting home at a normal hour, and I can have my normal morning routine instead of have to be in the shop by 5 to keep things moving.
Yeah, people
But
take for granted a normal routine, like.
seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do it to myself sometimes, but I'm kind of a workaholic also, so I don't know that I can control it.
Yeah, I feel like again, like going back to that kind of screw loose thing. I mean, you have to have a certain personality type to do this to yourself, because it's not easy. It's not like a luxury. I feel like people watch movies about racing and they think the guys just show up, race, go home, have champagne, and you know.
Yeah, no, the behind the scenes that nobody sees is brutal. I mean, you could literally make a reality show about it.
They should. Maybe we might get some.
Not a bad idea, actually.
Putting it out there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a grind every day, and it seems like no matter how early you start preparing. I mean, we started planning and getting ready for this KOH right after KOH last year, and it still came down to the last minute.
Really?
I mean, getting parts and all of this is sometimes tough, especially because we're constantly trying to push the limits and have, improve everything, and that is almost always custom stuff, and that stuff takes time. And luckily we have a lot of really good partners that are willing to do things like that. I mean, getting 37s onto a Maverick R was not an easy thing.
I don't.
And luckily, Can-Am was all about it, and they supported it 100%, and they took care of like a lot of the geometry stuff and the bigger knuckles to make all this stuff work. And then CT Raceworks, designing a from scratch chassis and making all that happen. And then even down to the wheels, the Maverick R takes a super high positive offset wheel that it's the only vehicle that I know of that requires this. And if you don't have it, it screws the geometry of the front end all up. And so a 17-inch version didn't exist, and Raceline came through and made the stuff for us, but again, it takes time. And they didn't really have a sales point for it because nobody else can fit 37s on their Maverick cars, and the 37s are what takes the 17-inch wheels. So I mean, for them, it's a big business investment with almost no return. Now on the flip side, aftermarket companies will be coming. I think even CT is going to start selling to the public those taller knuckles, and so there will be a sales avenue for them. But at the time when they started the project, there wasn't. They were just willing to jump in and do it and get it done, So like I said, we have great partners that put a lot into our program. I mean, we couldn't do it without them, that's for sure.
They gamble with you. It's good.
They do. They do.
I mean, so far you guys have proven that it works.
We try. We try to give them as much a return as we can, but and it doesn't always work. Things don't always go to plan. But hopefully it works out more than it doesn't, that's for sure.
So the Mavar was homologated for the first time to qualify for FIA and be at the Dakar. Tell us a little bit about what that process was or what you know about it.
Luckily, I wasn't that involved,
Okay, great.
but I heard all the horror stories about it, and apparently it was quite the process. We don't have anything like that over here in the U.S., so I think just I was pretty blown away in hearing what that process was. I mean, just all of the paperwork that had to be submitted and all of these things were crazy. I think it took Can-Am like 14 months or something to get it homologated and barely got it done before Dakar.
I was gonna say, do you feel like that made a little bit of a difference? Because unlike some of the other teams who could be hands-on with the car most of the year, you guys had what, one really solid test, maybe?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, we had a test in Morocco in, I think it was September or November, and those were even just with the V1 cars. It's not even what we raced. And then we raced Morocco on like the V2 version, and it was closer to what we were going to race. And then the first time we drove the final version of the race cars was in shakedown at Dakar,
I think that's pretty good then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, South has so much experience. They kind of know what it took. And of course, we had issues for sure, but that's to be expected with a brand new platform. And I think at the end of the race, with winning so many stages, proved that the car is capable, for sure. We just had a little bit of reliability stuff we need to work on, but we learned so much this race that I think going into next year, they're going to be super solid, and we shouldn't have any of those repeats. So it'll truly be competitive for the overall win, even comparing it to the Polaris. I mean, it's the same car they've been racing for years over in Mexico, and they've got that thing dialed for sure. It's super fast, super reliable. They have badass drivers, but that's good. It is good. Like I said, it goes back to that manufacturer competition. That's what we need. It's good for the sport. It's good for everybody.
Breeds excellence.
Hmm.
I mean, you guys probably wouldn't be at the levels that you are if you didn't have a team to compete against.
100% no. We wouldn't even be doing this. There's no reason. Why would a manufacturer pay teams to compete if they're going to win no matter what? Because everybody drives that vehicle. I mean, it keeps everybody in the job.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun. It's fun to see the back and forth, and it's great to keep the audiences and fans interested, because as much as we might be loyal and love our teams, seeing them go through a little bit of struggle brings back a little bit of that humanity to it.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, it's a struggle. It's for sure. But and I mean, it's good all around. I mean, even Polaris winning the overall yesterday here is while it sucks for us, but it's the competition that we need. Can-Am's been pretty dominant out here since 2020.
Yeah.
And when Polaris is putting as much into it as they are to catch up and win, and then being successful with it, I mean, it drives us to push harder and, not get complacent with where we were. Yeah. So we're going to come back swinging next year with something even better. It's a good foundation for when you guys have your Ferrari versus Ford. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And it'd be good if some of the other manufacturers were at that same level, and I think they will be one day. But yeah, I do too, and I hope they turn out to be true. Me too. Because more manufacturers getting into it is going to be even better. I mean, look at pro motocross and supercross and stuff. You have 5, 6, 7 manufacturers that all put it creates more jobs for everybody, not just the racers, but all the support that goes into it at the manufacturer, whole race departments and everything. I mean, they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that competition. True. High tide raises all ships. And let's go back to Dakar a little bit. What, you said that you caught your attention 2018, 2020. It really made you want to do it. What was it that drew you into the race? I'd say more just seeing, not the racing, but the backside struggle of how hard it is. I don't know why I'm a glutton for punishment, but I enjoy races that are a super challenge, And when I started seeing how hard it actually was and how long and all that, I mean, it just piqued my interest, The accomplishment of winning something like that is a big deal that is globally recognized. So it's not that I have an ego I need to feed or anything. I just want to do it. So yeah, that's it. I can only race for so long,
Do it all
and
now.
I want to try to get it all done while I have the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of punishment, you told me a story that one of those days, I don't know if it was prologue or one of the earlier stages, you had to be towed, you and Andrew had to be towed behind a T5.
That was stage one. Yeah, that's when I got the rock between the skid plate and the transmission and knocked a hole in it. And the engine was perfectly fine, but we had no drive. Took about an hour for the T5 to get to us, and we got towed for I think it was like 6 hours, and it was the gnarliest thing I think I've ever done. Like we were maybe 15 feet behind the truck and just in silt the entire time, like completely blind. And you, every once in a while, you could see the taillights of the truck, but I could barely see my own headlights. The cab would fill with so much dust that I couldn't see my gauges or anything like that.
Crazy.
And so we had a windshield and with the windshield wiper going. And if it was like solid white out there, that was a good thing because that was the reflection off the back of the T5 from my lights.
Yeah.
And I knew I was right behind it and we were good. And then I'd see it start going this way and I'd veer that way. But then again, the dust in the cab would be so bad and it would just go black, complete blackout. I couldn't see my own lights or anything. And I was no longer behind the T5. And all of a sudden I'm getting towed through bushes and trees and rocks and smashing everything or running over the tow rope. But the guys in the T5, they had to haul ass because there was a cutoff for the finish line and I had to get there. Otherwise, I'd have DNF'd stage and been out of the rally, after stage one.
Yeah.
So they did an awesome job of getting me there and keeping me in the race, And actually, they saved my ass a couple times. So, it goes back to the accomplishment of just finishing that race and what you go through to do it. But yeah, it was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the gnarliest things I've done in my entire career.
I can't imagine. I mean, fully just going full send behind a giant fence. For some reason, anyone doesn't know, they were essentially the support vehicles back in the day in Africa, and they had to go through all the race course and decided why not race it also. So they're just, to me, they're giant garbage trucks. And so you can imagine they're just throwing up massive roosts, and to be essentially going blind for 6 hours down a course.
And you couldn't, like I said, you couldn't see it at all. So like if that reflection started getting brighter, that means you needed to hit the brakes,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like you get slack in the rope and you just get your neck whipped back. I mean,
You
and
didn't train for that.
no, and it's not like we're just going straight. We are literally going through the race course, through the desert, and through all the terrain that Saudi Arabia has, And that place, that entire area of the world is either rock or sand dunes. That is your only two options, And it is absolutely treacherous, So when you can't see, you have no control. It was extremely stressful, and then inhaling that much dust, I actually got super sick. I just got over it maybe, 4 or 5 days ago, but just a lot of nights at Dakar, I had bad fever and, just trying to deal with that and eating ibuprofen like M&Ms, trying to get ready for the next day and then spend another 12 hours in the car. And by the end of the day, I'm so drained and sick that I was just, suffering. But looking back, I mean, it's part of it. Everybody got sick. It's not just like I did, but I think mine was respiratory, dealing with that much dust in my lungs. And Andrew ended up getting really sick. He was puking before actually before the 48-hour stage that morning, right before we were taking off, he was throwing up, and he was dealing with, same things I was.
It's rough. How do you mentally get yourself through that? For someone else, they'd give up right away.
Yeah, honestly, you never even think about quitting. You just deal with it. I mean, it's like stopping is never even a thought in the back of my mind, You just keep on going. As hard as it is what it is.
So you'd say that was probably one of the hardest things you did
Oh, absolutely.
at the race? Yeah, I know I asked you in a different interview for social once, and I remember you describing that. And you gave me a lot bigger image to go through. I mean, I can't fathom that.
Yeah, it was 100% focus, and much harder than driving on my own because you didn't have control and you couldn't see. You're just along for the ride, and if I smash the back of the truck and jack the car up even worse, or get pulled off to the side and smash it into a big rock, which I did, but luckily I didn't hurt anything. It just creates more work for the team, I already got back at midnight that night, and my start time the next day was still pretty early because it was the start of the 48-hour stage. And, they had to not only change the whole transmission, which is a huge job, they had to fix everything else that was jacked up on it too. And if I wrecked it into the back of the truck, it's just even worse. And the chances of me making the start the next day are just doing this,
So much
Um,
pressure.
yeah, I was honestly shocked the next morning because I got there, got something to eat, and went straight to bed. And I was shocked the next morning when I got out there and my car looked brand
Thank
new.
you.
Yeah, I mean, it was clean even.
Those guys are wizards.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know what's in the water over there, but the hardest
Unsung
working
heroes.
guys I've ever seen in my life,
Truly.
and yeah, you couldn't do it without people that are as dedicated as the mechanics over there. Like it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And not only that, like, we're sleeping in motorhomes and stuff, and while they're small motorhomes and there's a bunch of us in there, we're still in kind of climate controlled. They're sleeping in tents and
Yeah. Exposed.
yeah.
There were windstorms, if you
Oh yeah.
remember, I'm sure, like the first few days of Dakar, there were intense
Hmm.
windstorms every day.
Yeah,
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 people traveled a
those
lot.
those guys are unbelievable. They really are. People, you could do a whole nother reality show on about them, and it would probably be the most entertaining thing, more than the racers because they're working harder than anybody. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, the bivouac is like, if people haven't been there, it's the bivouac is 24 hours a day. I mean, there's always something happening. There's always wrenching. There's always somebody testing something. What was your first impression coming to the bivouacs the first time?
Well, the first one we went to was really nice. It
Yeah.
was, but you're trying to soak it all in, and it's a little overwhelming.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess when you first get there, everything's perfect and clean and organized, and it's like coming to Pits Anywhere. Oh, it's like coming to KOH at the beginning. Everything's nice and done, but by about day 6, it's a madhouse, and that's when you really see what it is. I think when you first get there, in your first impressions, that's kind of a false sense of reality. It's when the race starts and things start going sideways that you see, for not only for us, but for every team, that you see what it's really all about,
Yeah, when it becomes hectic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like, this, to me, I've described it as, sort of a Star Wars-esque, like, otherworldly experience. It's just really busy and, like, streets are full of vendors and things
Hmm.
happening. And then you have these giant vehicles that ride past you. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to put it too, because it is almost like an alien world over there. Saudi's not like what it is over here. Not the terrain or the landscape or the people or anything,
Yeah.
not the traditions or anything. I mean, in the bivouac, we're kind of in our own little bubble that's moving around, and there's a lot of Americans there, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah, now more
Um,
than ever.
yeah, yeah, but a lot of Europeans and stuff too. But it's a different world. So again, it goes back to, you can sit here and talk about it and describe it you could write a book on it,
Yeah.
but you're not going to get a sense of what it really is until you're there.
Yeah, that's the impression I get from anyone who's ever been. It's truly an experience you have to be there for,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I hate when I have something that I felt like was a good question for you, but going back to the experience, was there anything that maybe impressed you about maybe the race as a whole or just bivouac, anything in particular?
No, definitely the organization of the whole event. If something was running behind, it was like one day the stage started late because the fog was so heavy that I couldn't see the front of the car,
Yeah.
And our liaison was like 100K that day. That was also stressful because it's raining, you're soaking wet, it's cold, you can't see anything. And over there, I think the only traffic law is don't die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people drive just wild. They're passing on the shoulder, they're passing in your lane, they're coming up right beside you, there's cars coming, and they're squeezing between. Like, it's pretty crazy. I think, honestly, the speed limit is the only thing they take serious, and other than that, it's a free-for-all. So being on the road in a race car is super stressful, because something happens, you can't do the stage and you're done.
Yeah, for something that's so stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but you have a start time and say it's at 12 o'clock, you better be there 2 minutes early and be on time for your check-in. You're not checking in early, but you definitely don't want to check in late. And everything is organized down to the T. All the rules are 100% black and white. The penalties are black and white. Everything is public. When somebody gets penalized, the entire bivouac knows it through the press release that the stewards release. I mean, the organization that goes into it out there to make all that happen is also crazy, you know. So I really like that. And as much of a pain in the ass as like all the rules can be, they're there uh, for a reason. And, everybody knows what they are and everybody plays by them because there's checks and balances for everything. You're not getting away with it if you try to pull a fast one on them. And so nobody really tries, I don't think, that I know of anyway.
Yeah, me either.
But
Fast way to get banned.
yeah, it is. It is. So I really liked that aspect of it. I mean, super organized, super professional, and everybody knew what was going on. So, yeah.
And did you ever get a chance to actually step outside of the bubble? Did you get to see Saudi or interact with any of the cultural aspects?
I actually didn't, which was kind of a bummer. Again, my Dakar was like getting to the end of the stage was a win because I had so many, little mechanical gremlins that made some of the days really long. And honestly, even the days I got in early, I was so exhausted. All I wanted to do was go to bed. So, and like trying to time the showers perfectly so I could get over there and get a hot shower, or at least one where I didn't freeze to death.
It was particularly cold at times.
It was.
I was surprised.
It was. All I wanted to do was relax and go to bed. And again, I was sick, so, getting outside and doing other stuff was kind of the last thing on my mind. But at the same time, it's like, well, I mean, if I never get the opportunity to go back over there, I wish I had gone out and seen it a little bit. But on the flip side, a lot of the liaisons were long, and we went through towns and everything, and I got to see a lot of it. I just didn't get to get out and experience it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, at least you have something.
yeah,
It's, and it's, although I would ask if you'd ever come out and check it out just for vacation. I don't imagine you have a lot of vacation time. So
no. That's a big trip over there too. Travel is not easy.
You guys are in the talks to do another Dakar?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think so. I'm pretty sure I'll be there next year. The plan with Can-Am was multi-years. Again, it's a huge expense, and I have to raise other sponsor money to do it, but I feel like everybody that was involved with it this year really benefited not only from the exposure, and my result to me, 10th place was not good because that's not what I'm used to being happy about. But at the same time, 10th place in my first Dakar, and people race that race for years and years and years, and all they want to do is finish, and doing that is very difficult. So while I'm not pumped on 10th, I kind of take a step back and look at it. I didn't kind of do this on my own, but it seemed like everybody was really pumped on me getting 10th. I thought, well, actually, maybe it's not that bad, but
not at all, by the way.
yeah, but again, the people that and companies that were involved with me benefited not only from the exposure, but like the development and what they learned. Elka with my suspension. I mean, we learned a lot of things about the shocks that we don't experience over here because Dakar is truly the ultimate test of a product. Same with learning about tire setup and all these things. We had no idea, never done it before. And what it takes to be consistent and not have issues for 12 days. I mean, don't get me wrong, we didn't have a ton of problems or anything, but it's like, how can we improve and make everything better? You know what I mean?
More efficient every time.
Yeah, I'd always heard like, it's not that rough over there. It's not like the United States where you have, big, huge whoop sections and all that. It's all virgin ground and it's smooth. Yeah, that's true. There's no whoops, but it's so freaking rough in other ways. Like, you can't believe it. Like I said, it's all rocks. And if you look at them, you're getting a flat tire.
Yeah.
And it's like, I keep saying, like, the rocks are not like here in Johnson Valley. It's rocks that are seeing a tire for the first time in their existence over a billion years or
So they're
whatever it
still
is. The only thing that's touched them is water, and that makes them very sharp. I say it's like going out in a field and every blade of grass is a rock, and that's what it is, you know. And then once you break through that kind of rock barrier and you actually have some lines, then it's just silt. So with rocks sticking into it, so it's destroys everything, you know. So if you want to know if your product holds up, that's the place to do it. And it's a great selling point for any company, you know. If their product can finish and win even a Dakar, like, that's huge.
Now, I feel like we've touched on quite a lot about Dakar and, you know, the expectations you might have had and you know, the reality of it, of course.
Yeah.
But in general, you know, I see you doing more rally. I see you, obviously, you're, I would say, dominating in one sense a lot of the desert races out here. Are there any other formats of motorsports that you're interested in trying?
Well, I bought a cart, and I actually really enjoy that. I don't think I have a ton of interest in like being a professional kart racer or anything like that. But, you know, pavement racing in general has never really interested me, even though I'm a big Formula One fan. But
Yeah.
outside of that, like, and for F1, for me, it's more the technology that I think is so awesome. You know, sometimes the racing's great, sometimes it's so, but I really enjoy, like, looking at the technology that the teams bring to the table, you know, like, even though they have all these rules and they're super restricted, they're finding all these crazy things. And, you know, there's so much money in it that it's like watching new things being invented all the time, you know, to make the car faster. So I think that's awesome. But again, I didn't really have interest in pavement racing until I bought that cart, really just for cross training, because we have a really badass kart track like 5 minutes from my house. At Dallas Karting Complex is awesome, and I used to go out there and all they had was one track, and it was like rental karts. And like, I wanted to try a real one, but it was like, I can only drive for 5 minutes in between rental races. Well, then they put a bunch of money into it. Now they have two tracks and one's for members, so I can go out there 7 days a week, and it's like the best training you can get, because like a shifter kart will put strains on your body like nothing else.
The G-force on
Yeah.
that is great. I love
It's
karting.
it's nuts. But I think racing those would be super fun, you know. And it's big in Texas, so I don't have to go far to do it. So, yeah, I think that would be a good time for sure.
That would be fun. Just not to like shamelessly drop something, but if you're ever in northern Italy, there's like another
All the time.
Just saying, if you are, remember this, because there's like the most epic, like, gas powered. It's public, but they, you know, I'm sure they also have like free lap times, and they have like up to 5 stories. They have a Mario Kart corkscrew. It takes, I think, almost over 2 minutes to get around the track, indoor, outdoor, and big enough to where they can close off the outdoor and still have a full
Wow.
thing. Like, there are some F1 guys that go there and just train, and I mean, super fun. Italian, they have like a bar right next to it.
That does sound fun.
Yeah, very Italian. Big segue, but it's just amazing.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, I mean, I get nothing out of it, but it's just, everyone should know, because it's super cool.
Sure.
I enjoy that. But.
Yeah. And I used to do a little bit of mountain bike racing. There's a lot in DFW. I'd love to get back into that too. It's just a time thing, you know, like my whole life seems to revolve around racing. And so when I'm not racing, like, one of those things is like, yeah, the last thing you want to do is think about racing.
Yeah.
But I used to race RC cars, you know. I really enjoyed that back when we had a lot of that in Dallas. But, you know, it seems like also I enjoy working, so you know, and working on our businesses and trying to improve those as well, you know. So, but, you know, this is my main business, is racing out here, so it consumes a lot of my life, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's amazing that, you know, behind the scenes, there's the race days, obviously, and those are a big endeavor. And then it's just the moment you leave, you're already looking at the next one. You're already planning and prepping.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Luckily, the next one's not for a while, so I'm actually going to really focus on spending some time with my wife and maybe going on a trip or a vacation of some sort and relaxing, just because it's been a long time since I've had a bit of a break, you know. But, yeah, of course, we're going to be preparing, but at least the deadline's a little further out than normal.
Yeah, if you could go on a trip anywhere, no holds barred, where would you go?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I'm always asking for advice on that, because oh man,
what do you want out of a vacation?
To do nothing.
Oh, okay, well then.
Yeah,
Usually
to
that
do
requires
nothing.
like beach,
Yeah.
fields, depending on the circumstance.
What's bad is I actually enjoy the cold more than I do the heat.
Uh,
Yeah, I know, and I've been snow skiing one time in my life, so I'd like to do that again, but
that's cool.
I don't have to go very far to do
Yeah, I was gonna
that.
say.
But that's a great question. I mean, went to the Dominican on my honeymoon, and I really enjoyed that because we just did nothing. You know,
Yeah,
Brianna's kind of the same way.
perfect.
We like to just chill and relax, and that was great for that. You know,
Yeah.
so
Busy people, it's like there's the people who want to see the world and want to go out and do these big, great adventures, but then there's the people like there's adventures every day. It's just
hmm
constant moving. So
that's exactly right. Like Dakar and this. I mean, that is an adventure. You know, I'm getting to experience a lot, and so you're so bombarded with experiences that it becomes stressful, and you know, just unwinding is that relief I was talking about. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned earlier, this kind of sport can't last forever. Do you have a vision for yourself in the next, like, well, I don't want to give you a timeline to say when the end is, but, you know, if and when you stop racing in your distant future, excuse me, what do you see yourself doing? What would you want to do?
I mean, we're trying to invest right now. Ultimately, I'm trying to set myself up to where when I am done racing, I've got another source of income. And again, I'm not trying to, I'm a workaholic, so I'm sure I'll find something else to do.
Yeah, I think so.
That's for sure. But I'm trying to set myself up to where I don't have to work super hard to get by, you know,
Yeah.
where the work I do is more for enjoyment than anything else, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's a good question. I hope it's a long time out. We've got a great thing going with Can-Am. I've been with them for oh boy since 2008. So
It's a long time
yeah,
for one manufacturer.
we're approaching 20 years. You know, and I have no interest in going anywhere else. So I would love to, when I'm done racing myself, I would love to still be involved with racing with them, whether it's testing or helping
Yeah.
develop or helping to in some way with the race team. Maybe consulting. I have no idea. I
So,
haven't
yeah,
really thought
that's
about it,
very far
but
ahead. Yeah.
I would love to still be involved with it somehow, you know, and if I can make some sort of job out of it, or maybe it's running a race team. I don't know.
Right.
I
A lot of
think,
options.
yeah, well, I don't know about options yet, but maybe I
Yeah.
could create
Yeah.
one.
You have more
So